Good early Wednesday morning, everyone. Brian Neubert here from goldenblack.com, live in the Kohl Center here in Madison, Wisconsin, sitting among the confetti courtside following Wisconsin's 70-67 win over Purdue, thus ending Purdue's Big Ten title hopes, at least in the regular season, and thus clinching at least a share of the title for Wisconsin. This is your wrap video following that game. It is brought to you by our friends at the Purdue Club Hotel and the Boiler Up Bar, where Alan Karpick and I will be doing our Thursday Night Live show at 7 p.m. on Thursday. If you want to come out there and rehash all of these fun outcomes lately for Purdue, I know you can't get enough of hearing about this stuff. So you're cordially invited to the Boiler Up Bar at the Purdue Club Hotel on Thursday at 7 p.m. So we will get into this eventful game, the same as we have all these other eventful games away from Mackey Arena this year. This one probably being the most improbable. I have never seen anything like what's happened to Purdue in some of these road games this year. I do want to make it very clear here that Purdue's won some close games this year. Obviously, they survived that slugfest at Illinois many weeks ago. They beat Ohio State on Jaden Ivey's buzzer beater. They beat Maryland on a last-second stop that never should have happened. That never should have, a defensive series that never should have happened, in my opinion. But for Purdue to now lose 4 games on shots made in the last 16 seconds of games, including essentially 3 buzzer beaters, I've never seen anything like it. And for Wisconsin to now have won 15 straight games decided by 6 points or less, I've never seen anything like that either. That is borderline mathematically impossible. The law of averages apparently goes right out the window. Another reporter in there told me that's the most since the shot clock was introduced to college basketball. You give Wisconsin credit for that, but you also have to recognize the fact that that's just not going to happen no matter how well and how steady you play. I am picturing the scene in the movie The Devil's Advocate where Al Pacino is actually Lucifer, walks into the church, sticks his finger in the holy water, and it starts to fizz and steam. And I'm picturing Brad Davison doing that at some point and having made some sort of deal with some sort of unholy higher power for all of this to happen. But this has been kind of the story of Purdue's season, and you almost kind of couldn't make this up. Just like you couldn't make up Ron Harper making a shot from just inside half court through 2 defenders, double pumping the ball and swishing it, just like you couldn't make up Rob Finney turning into Superman totally at random against Purdue, making a game winner with 16 seconds to go. The Michigan State thing was a possession-to-possession game. They make a 3 at the buzzer. Nothing all that out of the ordinary about that, really, except for the fact that it fell in line with all of these buzzer beaters Purdue lost on. And now for Johnny Davis to bank in a 2-point jumper, and then Chucky Hepburn to bank in the game-winning 3-pointer with a second to go. Purdue defended both of those plays, I thought, as well as they could have defended them. It's just bad luck. It was simultaneously the most Wisconsin thing ever and the most Purdue thing ever. And it's just, you just couldn't make it up. You couldn't make that ending up, given how Purdue's season has gone. The reason Purdue still had to win this game to even have a chance at a share of the Big Ten title was because of games like this unfolding prior. And throughout the day, leading into this game, you knew that it was going to come down to the last couple seconds. You knew it was going to come down to the last couple minutes here. This was a game befitting of a Big Ten championship sort of coronation. These were 2 really good teams. The way I put it is, Purdue all season long has been a great team for 30 to 35 minutes per game. Wisconsin has been a good team for 40 minutes every single game. Whichever one was going to win out was going to, leave here with a win. I couldn't think of the right word there. It is only 1:57 in the morning my time, so you'll have to pardon the occasional cognitive dissonance there, if that's the right use of that term. I don't think it is. But for Purdue, this one was different. I really think this one was different. Yes, Purdue missed free throws. No one was trying to miss free throws. Purdue is the worst free throw shooting team in the Big Ten. that is relatively consistent with their being. This wasn't necessarily Purdue, spilling their coffee all over themselves here. This was Purdue playing well enough to beat a really good team on the road. Purdue rising to the occasion when they were down 11 in the second half. Purdue doing everything they needed to do to win this game, and then getting beaten on simple bad luck. Because, as I said, Purdue played well enough to win this game. They took care of the basketball. They played good defense. The only thing they didn't do was make free throws. And obviously that's an important part of the game. They made 11 free throws. Wisconsin made 11 free throws. Brad Davison missed the biggest free throw of the game. So free throws giveth and free throws taketh away. But this came down to simple dumb luck. I know if you're a hardliner and you're upset right now, you're pointing to everything under the sun that could have gone differently in this game. That is fair. If you're cannibalizing Jaden Ivey because he missed some free throws before he gave Purdue a chance in the first place in the final 12 minutes of this game, all I can say to you is you don't have to worry about it much longer, because you've only got a couple more games with one of the best players Purdue's ever had. Ross-Ade was awesome. Part of the issue here for Purdue in close games, I think, Purdue has had a better season than it had last year, and that's kind of the natural progression of things. I don't even remember what their Big Ten record was last year, so you have to excuse me. But they have a better overall record. They're a better team this year than they were last year. But I think there's some things they still have had to grow into and mature into, and some of it is that consistency and that ability to, kind of close out games on the road. Obviously, the whole common denominator of losing close games away from Mackey Arena is too distinct to ignore. But I think Purdue needed to mature into that. And the thing for Purdue here is that this is a team that some of its assets were too good too fast. And you aren't going to get the best of Jaden Ivey down the line. Chances are you're not going to get 4 years out of Ross-Ade. I think he'll be back next year, but I don't think he'll be a 4-year player. I think Purdue has needed to be able to mature into the sort of team they just lost to. I will add here, my opinion on the COVID year. I'm not going to blame that for Purdue not being in a position to share a Big Ten title here, but Wisconsin's not here without Brad Davison. Illinois is not going to share the Big Ten title without Trent Frazier and DeMonte Williams. I think that was absolute BS that the NCAA just went for a cheap win from a PR perspective and allowed all these guys to come back. College basketball is meant to be played by young men, not grown men. You're always going to have your occasional fifth-year senior like Purdue does and Sasha Stefanovic, but against Illinois, you're playing a team full of ringers. And then once again, Wisconsin is not here without Brad Davison. That I'm not necessarily saying that's why Purdue's not going to get a share of the Big Ten title, but I'm saying that's not a coincidence. The two teams that are going to share the Big Ten title have 6-year seniors on their team. And I've been vocal about my opinion on the COVID year all year long, and I will stay consistent with that if Purdue wins 10 games in football next year, and it's because of Aiden O'Connell. I'm not going to be inconsistent with what I say about the COVID year. I think it was simply the NCAA being such a PR disaster. They just needed a cheap win where they could find one, and it fundamentally changed college basketball this year. And it will continue to fundamentally change college basketball as long as 4 years worth of classes can change the hierarchy of college basketball because 18% of their teams last year or 2 years ago didn't get to play in an NCAA tournament. It just doesn't make any sense to me. But Purdue hasn't had a chance necessarily to mature into the sort of team that would win these sorts of close games. I think they took a step from last year. I don't think they took a whole step. But the window was not one that was going to stay open very long because once again, Jaden Ivey was too good too fast. And, Purdue won't be able to bring this thing to full term, so to speak. That being said, you need, in situations like this, your experienced guys really matter. Sasha Stefanovic got Purdue off to a great start offensively, played through a dislocated finger throughout much of the game. Eric Hunter, I thought, even though Johnny Davis got his 16 points, 16 is considerably less than 37. I thought Eric Hunter did a hell of a job on Johnny Davis, making him work for everything he got. Johnny Davis made some really tough shots, made a really lucky shot at the end. Travion Williams got to be better for Purdue to be the team Purdue wants to be. It wasn't all that long ago that, a couple months ago in Connecticut, people were really celebrating Purdue, and there were probably some things going on then when Purdue was just outscoring everyone, and people didn't recognize that, hey, what's going to happen when they get to Big Ten play? I think people probably got a little bit ahead of themselves in terms of what Purdue was this year. I like to think I didn't, because I remember saying many times what's going to happen when they can't just outscore everyone. But a lot of people were talking about, Purdue like they were the Showtime Lakers, and in fairness, they kind of looked like it. But, people were kind of really gravitating toward Travion Williams as the face of this team, because he was coming off the bench and how much he meant to Purdue and how good he's been in his career. As much as the free throws really hurt Purdue in this game, I think Zach-Ede's foul trouble mattered just as much, because, Purdue needed, when Zach-Ede went out of the game, Zach-Ede was great in this game. 17 points, 6-11 shooting. That's not his most efficient day. 9 rebounds, fouled 6 times in only 23 minutes. But when he was out of the game, Purdue was an entirely different team. I think the plus-minus matters only to a point, but I think it really matters at positions where it's one or the other. It's not a combination thing. It's a who's in at center and how are they playing. Zach-Ede plus 16, Travion Williams minus 19. That reflects how much Travion Williams struggled in this game. He struggled defensively down the stretch at Michigan State, but he's 2 of 8 for 6 points and 2 turnovers in 17 minutes. Obviously, he's not trying to miss shots, anything like that, but, it's one of those situations where it's your older guys, you want to really be able to rely on, and I thought Purdue needed him in this game badly. And I said that before Zach-Ede got in, some measure of foul trouble, and it just didn't work for him tonight. And I think that was as big a key to the game as Purdue's foul shooting. Not throwing anybody under the bus, not blaming any one person. Purdue wins as a team, loses as a team. Obviously, Jaden Ivey missed some free throws. What else? Anyway, you win as a team, you lose as a team, but I just thought that was a really important part of this game. I think you have to give Chucky Hepburn and Tyler Wall a hell of a lot of credit. Matt Painter said that he doesn't think he was crediting Tyler Wall and said he's probably not going to be on anybody's All-Big Ten ballot. He'll be on my All-Big Ten ballot. I will tell you that, because that kid's been a stud all year long for Wisconsin. The classic Wisconsin player, the classic Ethan Happ, where he's got the feet of a mountain goat. He's got like old G.I. Joe hips where they just turn 360 degrees. Really knows how to finish off the glass. Really a versatile player. Does a lot of good things outside of just scoring. Defensively very active. Stuff like that. He was, as much as Chucky Hepburn did, I think Tyler Wall was the difference in this game. But I think also, I think you really have to give Jaden Ivey and Zach-Ede a lot of credit here for what they did in the final 13 minutes of this game, scoring Purdue's last 25 points. I thought Purdue's, 2 best players really delivered when Purdue needed them to. I thought down the stretch, Jaden Ivey was fantastic. He obviously didn't play a perfect game by any stretch of the imagination, but it is unfortunate for him that was a borderline heroic final 12 minutes of the game where he scores 17 points after you're down 11 to get you in position to win this game, makes the game-tying 3, and then does everything right guarding Chucky Hepburn. I saw somebody on Twitter blaming Jaden Ivey for that. Jaden Ivey himself blamed himself for that, but no, he did everything he needed to do, because he cut off Chucky Hepburn from getting in the lane. He forced him outside. He forced him into a really tough angle. He got a great contest on the shot, I thought, and as Chucky Hepburn called it afterwards, which I won't say on video, BS. He was down on the floor. During the post-game celebration, had the microphone, and I heard him describe the shot as that, BS, and that's precisely what it was, because it was a step-back three with a bad angle off the glass. Back when I was a kid on the playground, if you didn't call glass, it didn't count. Obviously, that's not in the NCAA rule book. Perhaps it should be. Purdue's history with banked-in shots is really, really complicated, because back in like 2007, whatever it was, Brian Butch banked in a three to beat Indiana, and that ended up costing Purdue a share of the Big Ten title. A few years later, in that epic game against Ohio State in Mack Arena, Andre Wesson banks in a three-pointer. That was a shot that without that, Purdue probably wins a share of the Big Ten title that year. Now it was not just one banked-in shot, but two banked-in shots. And, at some point in time, you just chalk it up to bad luck. That was bad luck, and all you can hope for with bad luck is that you have a lot of good luck coming to you. And the only thing I've seen like this run for Purdue of these narrow, really difficult losses has been the flip side of it, was the way Virginia won all those games in the NCAA tournament years ago. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen for Purdue, but I'm saying, maybe Purdue's owed some karma here, the rest of the season. Obviously, you make your own luck, and Purdue has not been perfect in these situations where they have lost these games this way. But tonight they were good enough to win. Tonight they played well enough to win. Tonight, I don't want to say they deserve to win tonight, but I think both teams deserve to win tonight. Obviously, neither of them could. What it came down to was simple chance, simple luck. Wisconsin wins all of these games somehow, some way. Purdue has lost a bunch of these games somehow, some way. And here they both are. Wisconsin celebrating what will at least be a share of the Big Ten title. Purdue is left with, I don't want to call Purdue's season disappointing. We have no idea how it's going to end up. I also think that what I've said all year long about Purdue being a better team than a better Big Ten, being a better college basketball team than a really good Big Ten team, I think that really holds some water, because Purdue's strengths don't line up necessarily with what wins in Big Ten play, even though they were good enough to win tonight. But I don't want to call Purdue's season a disappointment. But there's going to be something unfulfilling about having a team like this and not at least sharing the Big Ten title. And that's not a gap that can be filled in any way, shape, or form. Maybe you go out and win the Big Ten tournament. I don't know. I think that would be a big deal for Purdue. But there's no going back now. You essentially lost a Big Ten title on a half-court shot by Ron Harper, an impossible shot, a shot he makes once out of every 100 times he tries it. And two banked-in shots by Wisconsin that were simple crap. Basically. Nobody intends to bank in threes, ever. And that's just luck. That's just the hands of the basketball gods reaching down and anointing Wisconsin as their chosen ones. For whatever reason, I don't know. But that's kind of what I got from this game. It's kind of my job to make sense of all this stuff for you guys, but I don't know if I really have any explanation for you here. It's just, the Ron Harper shot, the Rob Finney shot, both of these are just, kind of stranger than fiction. You can't make it up. You couldn't make this up in a million years. But it happened, so, Purdue just has to kind of move on and kind of lick its wounds and come out and beat Indiana on Saturday. That's the game doesn't mean quite as much, but that game always means a lot. So that's when I'll talk to you next. After Purdue plays Indiana on Saturday on Senior Day. Yeah, I guess we'll call it Senior Day. It's a day game. In the meantime, come on out to the Purdue Union Club Hotel in the Boiler Up Bar on Thursday, and you can get Alan Karpik's autograph. He'll be there with me to talk about Purdue basketball. Let's rehash some more really painful losses for you. How about that? I know that sounds like a good time. So if you want to come out there on Thursday night, 7 p.m., Boiler Up Bar, we'll see you there. Thank you for watching, thank you for reading, and thank you for processing our materials, however it is you process our materials. For goldenblack.com, this is Brian Neubert. For all the confetti around me, have a good night, everyone. Have a good morning, everyone.